anytime you see these two funny characters make noise in parliament, just know another political witch hunt is about to begin. Kimani Kemanoko and Junet are the noisiest parliamentarians that we see that do not do anything in regards to development. All they do is abuse and attack people. Of course, the order of the day today was attacking Ndindi Nyoro because members of parliament went to his constituency to benchmark based on the things that he's doing for his people. Kimani Kemanoko, we have not forgotten that you went live on an international news channel, Al Jazeera, in your red bottoms. Let me let that sink in. And declared yourself a billionaire. We do not even know the last thing you did in terms of development in Kikuyu constituency. Junet, we cannot even remember your constituency because we do not know what you do there, and we've never seen any shred of development. But you guys are attacking Ndindi Nyoro because members of parliament went to see the good work that he's doing in his constituency.
So now the MPs want to tell us that Ndindi Nyoro actually allocated all these funds by himself. The question begs, how many members are in a committee? So, wajinga walisha Kenya. You want to tell us that Ndindi Nyoro actually forced all the members of that committee to vote to allocate more money to his constituency? Queen is serious. Alafu moka wa Ruto surely. Kimani Ichung'wah. What kind of low life is this guy? It's too much, bana. Too much. I mean, use your brains.
Na tukamchagua sisi wote kumira tadhuraku dhuraku. Lakini rais wetu vile tulimchagua na vile alikalia kiti, sisi wengine wetu tulichaguliwa kwa hiyo chama ya kitambo hapo bereni. Na tukaigia na yeye tusaidiane. Yeye akarusha sisi nje. Sisi wote kule kamati za bunge wote zote akafurusha sisi. Hiyo kiti akaiondoa akaipeana kwa wale watu ya handshake. Rais wetu, tumekuwa tukikuheshimu hata we mwenyewe ukidhurumu sisi. Na ndio maana sisi hatujawahi enda pahali popote tunatukana wewe ama kuongea mabaya kuhusu wewe. The only thing we do is to tell you the truth. And therefore, Mr. President, ukisema tusikuulize maswali ya the high cost of living, ati sisi tunasaidiana na wewe kwa hiyo serikali, tunafaa tukwambie kwa siri. Rais, tunakuonea wapi kwa siri? Sisi hautusikizi. Wengine wetu hata ukiwa kwa mkutano ukituona unatoroka. How are we going to tell you ile mashida wa Kenya wa Murang'a na wa Kenya yote wanapitia? Uliona ni vyema mshikane na hiyo kitendawili. Na huyo ndio makamu wako wa rais in this second term. So rais, tafadhali.
The Budget and Appropriation Committee of this House has reached to the level where the chair of that committee, Mr. Speaker, now, members of parliament are going to his constituency for benchmarking, Mr. Speaker. Benchmarking. And all of us are supposed to receive the same amount of CDA, NGD, Mr. Speaker. What is making members to go and benchmark in a colleague's constituency, Mr. Speaker? Because the colleague is receiving more funding because of him being the chairman of the budget committee. Let's be honest to Kenyans. Let's tell Kenyans the truth, that he was sitting in an advantageous position of chairing that powerful committee of the House, which you could do skewed allocation of resources to his constituency, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, which member of parliament here can afford through his NGCDF to build classrooms, plaster them, put windows, put roof, put tiles in the classroom, cabros in the... Mr. Speaker, which member of parliament can afford to do that here? With a mere resources of 100 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, and advertise on Citizen Primetime News. Which member can do that? Can you raise up your hand if you can do that? None of the 349 members of this House, Mr. Speaker, can afford to do that. That can only be done by somebody who has access to bigger resources than any of them.
Something very fundamental called the nation. and the nation is the soft side of the country. Honorable Speaker, many times, even economically speaking, many countries actually progress when they have been able to align their culture. And Honorable Speaker, many times we confuse the culture and the language. That is only one side of what we call the nation, or a shared identity, or a shared values. The soft side of the country, Honorable Speaker, encompasses and answers the question of who are we as a country, who are we as a citizenry. Honorable Speaker, one could be language, others could be shared values, others could be even our temperament, others could be our disposition as a people, because, Honorable Speaker, all these soft sides of what defines the people form what is called the culture. Honorable Speaker, in this modern era, it is beholden upon all of us. And that is why culture is always actually not static, Honorable Speaker. It is progressive and dynamic. It behoves all of us to look at the segments of our culture which then brings identities that are static. Identities, Honorable Speaker, that then brings about fault lines in the relationships of the people. And that is why many countries, Honorable Speaker, have had many people with different cultures, but they came together to find an overarching culture, a shared value across. That is why a country like Switzerland is actually more fragmented in terms of ethnicities than Kenya. But when you look at it, it is more cohesive. A country like Tanzania, Honorable Speaker, is more fragmented in terms of ethnicities. But when you go to Arusha or Dar es Salaam, and you ask anyone which tribe you come from, the first thing they ask you is, are you Kenyan? Honorable Speaker, what I'm just trying to say is that it is important progressively. It may not happen very suddenly. Progressively, that for a country to actually thrive economically, they have to pull in one direction. And for a people to pull in one direction, they have to be the same people. That homogeneity of the people, Honorable Speaker, comes about by coming up with a culture that overacts and a culture that is shared across all people. People could be speaking different languages. People could be different even in their appearance, Honorable Speaker. But it is important, even for a country to thrive, that we pull in one direction. And for us to pull in one direction, we first of all have to deal with the fault lines. We have to deal, Honorable Speaker, with things that divide us and find an overarching culture and shared values that bring us together as a people. And upon that, Honorable Speaker, the beauty is that we always have a chance. As a country, we have a chance. As a continent, we have a chance, Honorable Speaker, so that we can define ourselves, Honorable Speaker, through an overarching identity, and an identity that which is not static, but which is fluid. Honorable Speaker, most of the static identities are the ones that pull people apart. For example, when you are born in a different, speaking in a different language, Honorable Speaker, many times, therefore, in that particular ethnicity you come from, you may never be able to change it in your lifetime. But, Honorable Speaker, also, another static identity that we always have to live with, Honorable Speaker, many times it comes as religion. Honorable Speaker, there are also other fundamentally static identities. But the current era, the modern age of nation building, Honorable Speaker, departs from those static identities and chaperones and comes up, Honorable Speaker, with a fluid identity where people can cross over. In the identities that are static, you can't cross over. But in a fluid identity that brings people together, it becomes a big